I know a lot of people like to talk about the pros and cons of digital versus physical or analog notebooks and note-taking systems. I actually use both. There's pros and cons to each, and each fits in different areas or different ways of writing, of keeping ideas, of tracking quotes, things like that. So the first thing I'll show you is that I use a good computer for my notes, just a solid Apple, MacBook Air for my digital, and I'm very particular about my pens for the analog. I like the 0.05 millimeter, is that what that is? Or 0.5 millimeter Zebra Sarasa clip pens. I like playing with this clip. And if they made like a wooden shelled one instead of plastic, that would be better. But I do try and replace the cartridges instead of buying a whole new pen, so I'm not using so much plastic. I don't like metal as much either, just because it's cold. I like stuff to be a little bit warmer. But I do love these Zebra Sarasa pens. They write so nicely. Another good one is the Pentel Energel, but I think I like actually the Zebra Sarasa a little bit better. But both are good, and so now I'll get in and show you more of how I do everything, how it all works. So this is my workbench desktop. I stand at it. I like standing. This is the first kind of paper that I use. This is just 8.5 by 11 inch off-white, made in USA Hammermill printer paper. It's cheap. You get like 500 sheets for $11, or if you go even more bulk, then you can get it even cheaper. But as you see, I write down just lots of ideas. I do a lot of thinking with this kind of paper. It's nice, it can be thrown away, or I do store it often in these. These are great. This is actually made in the USA too, but it's sorted by month, but I actually have, it's not what I have in here. I have each of these is its own little category. So, story idea, game idea, some drawing practice stuff. So I keep that stuff in those, and then I have some notebooks as well. So I have this little pocket notebook that I bring with me everywhere traveling, that kind of thing. It's just a leather sleeve, and then a Lockbee kind of like field notes notebook, and this is actually a moleskin, but also basically field notes notebook. This one is just a journal, basically. It's just notes, thoughts that I have. I can show you like goals that I have, just all kinds of random stuff. This was the start of my table idea, my workbench idea. You can see elephant, elk with elephant snout. I just put dumb, like whatever I'm thinking here. This is the trial and revolution of our times. Machine tyrannizes man. Man revolts against the machine. So I just do whatever kind of writings in there. But this is usually more personal stuff than like these. This is usually project work, whereas this is usually more personal. And then in the second one, it's just, this is dot grid. I like dot grid because it's 5 millimeter spaced usually. So you actually get more lines on a page than on the ruled papers, because the ruled ones are usually a little bit more than 5 millimeters separated. And then this is just some drawings that I've done. And I just bring, I don't always draw in this, but I do when I'm like kind of on the go and I don't want to bring a full-sized sketchbook. I do always keep a sketchbook, usually at least like A6 size, or what is that, A5 size or bigger. And I just got, I don't have much in this one yet, it's pretty new. But I always do have a sketchbook as well. I do some drawing practice on these kind of papers. This is just I don't want to show you the other side of this because there's a password written on it, but it's a same size as this, basically, like 5.5 by 8.5, dot grid uh, notebook that I use for writing work stuff down, just working through systems analysts, like programming ideas in projects. And then I have this dot grid that I use for, this is also pretty new, but like this is where I came up with the design for my workbench here. And I have, like, you know, if sometimes you, not dot grid, I said, this is just grid paper and graph paper. Sometimes it's nice for like a website, designing a website layout, that kind of thing. So I have that, that's cheap too. Also made in the USA. I try to get paper made in the USA as much as I can. Really just because made in USA, you know, it supports US jobs. And then I have my commonplace, which I've actually, you can see I've written a decent amount in it of just things that I've learned, things from books, that kind of things, YouTube videos, whatever. But I got maybe halfway through this, and then I also have been keeping a commonplace digitally, and it just works so much better digitally. It's so much easier to search. And with a commonplace, at least I do, want to be able to search it easily. So that search function is huge on a computer. Also, a lot of times I'm reading on a computer and just copying and pasting some highlight, or, you know, some quotes I want to highlight or something is a lot easier than writing it out. It's less of a barrier than when I want to read something like The Art of Living, where if I'm trying to take paper notes on it, it just takes so long to read the book that I just end up like, it's like a barrier kind of to it. Whereas what I'll do with with my iPhone a lot of times is if I find something, well, you can see I highlight in here a lot too. If I find something that I want to keep, I will just, Apple's really good at scanning text now with the iPhone. And so I'll just scan the text into a note and then put it in my commonplace. And so since this is digital now, and I'm working on migrating this all to the digital realm as well, I think that's a good time we can move on to the digital notes that I have. So if this seems kind of complicated to you, it's actually, it may be complicated, but for me, it's something that I have been working on and developing, you know, over the years, and this is just what fits perfectly with my brain, or most with my brain. So here I have Obsidian, which is it's basically just, the reason I like Obsidian is because these are literally just folders and text files. And I can actually go in to my iCloud, into my Obsidian, and I can see each of these files individually here. They're just markdown files. So I love that. I think that's super good for longevity, for archiving, that kind of thing. And so I will use Apple Notes sometimes. I use Apple Notes for just stuff that when I'm using, so I start with Apple Notes basically. If it's something that I want to put on a to-do list, or just something I want to remember to do, I'll put it in Apple Notes. I also use reminders. I use reminders, Apple reminders, for my grocery list. But Apple Notes, I have just some basic notes. Like I have future log, just events that I have coming up. I like to keep my events just listed that way. I have some things I want to look for on Black Friday, just website bookmarks, that kind of thing. And then some gift ideas for people. So pretty basic stuff. Utility, I have my bedtime routine, morning routine, confession times, farmers markets in Pittsburgh. But the reason I like Notes is because it just syncs to the iPhone immediately and quickly. And Obsidian does as well, but it's not quite as quick. It does some indexing and stuff. And I like keeping the simpler stuff kind of separated out in Apple Notes. It's just makes more sense in my mind, I guess. So that's my Apple Notes. It's just kind of, it's kind of like the 8.5 inch by 11 inch printer paper that I use. It's just kind of where I do some thinking sometimes if I'm not writing something out physically, or just where I'll keep, you know, just a quick idea that I want to get down And then oftentimes, like this idea, add to wellness. This is just a Bible verse that I want to add to the wellness book that I'm working on. And so I just threw that in notes, but you can see in my goals here, and it's one of my goals today, and I do this a couple times a week: clean up notes, downloads, photos, camera, email. And so one of the things I'll do is put any notes that belong in Obsidian in my commonplace here in here. And then I clean up my downloads folder because a lot of stuff can pile up in there. I clean up my camera and my photos, and then I clean up my emails. But so that's one of my goals, a couple times a week. But this is my basic Obsidian layout. So I have my commonplace. This is where I just any ideas that I've read that I think are cool, I will put down in here. And then you can see like farming, how to start an off-grid homestead, stuff like that, just random stuff. But then I have also all my project work in here. Poetry, I have my poems, and then just some like a task list basically. The Hartswell, that's the wellness book I'm working on. Songs, memos, Matterhorn is a story that I've been working on. And then just some websites that I have as well. And so I just kind of keep that stuff in digital. It's more organized and it's easier to manipulate. I can delete things, I can add things, I can, and then it's always there, like a task list. It's very easy to change task lists around, and my task lists are changing quite a bit. Like, I don't always check something off. Sometimes I'll come back a couple weeks later and be like, you know what, that's not really necessary. And then I just delete it from the list altogether. So that's how I use my notes. And then I do use Apple Pages a little bit. I use that for mostly like publishing. So if something's like ready to be formatted for publishing, like for example, Finding, this is my poetry collection that I'm working on. I'm at page 94 here, and I think I'm going to try and get to about 100 pages, but these are all just formatted and ready for publishing, which is something that Obsidian is not, or Apple Notes aren't good at. That you can't choose your fonts as easily and format a page with certain margin sizes and page numbers and stuff as easily. And so I just use Apple Pages for that. That just works better. So that's about it. That's my whole note-taking process. I guess there's one other thing I can show you here. It's in the books, which you kind of already saw. A lot of times, if it's a book, especially if it's a book that I'm going to keep, which sometimes you can't tell, I guess, until later, deeper into it, but a lot of times you can. If it's a book that I want to keep and not just like, a novel or something, like Brothers Karamazov, I'll probably get rid of this when I'm done with it, unless I plan on reading it again at some point. But so I don't keep any notes in that. But this one, I've got stuff all through the margins and underlines and stuff. And so this is actually almost like a notebook in itself. And so any books that I'll keep, I keep notes in them and keep them that way. And then if I do need to go back and I want to capture something that I think I'm going to go back to a few times, then I'll capture it in digital format. There's one more little piece of this I want to show you. It's down here. I sleep on the floor here. I have a mattress in my closet, just a fold-up mattress. But I wanted to show you this. This is just bigger drawing paper. This is just another little journal, just a field notes style journal. It's unruled, but I write my dreams down in here. So I keep this flashlight because I don't want to like use my phone in the middle of the night. I don't want to blind myself. And this is actually, if you look at how that reflects on the wall, it's a very low brightness flashlight. It's just an incandescent light bulb, so it's actual fire in there instead of more of like an electricity type thing. It's a lot less bright than an LED. It's a lot less blue light than an LED. And so I keep that with this little notebook where I write my dreams down. So that's about it. That's how I do my writing. Thanks for watching. I'd love to know how you do your writing, if you do things differently, if you think my system is way too complicated or way too simplistic or what. I'd love to know your thoughts. So feel free to share them. Thanks for watching.